I think everybody knows by now, someone actually tried to trademark Hot Girls Read. And for the first time, I think in history, the entirety of the book community was up in arms. But here's the thing, she's backed down. The trademark is dead. But there's several questions it's raised, and it's all about who owns community language. And those questions aren't going to go anywhere. So what actually happened? Let's talk timeline, because a lot of people heard about the drama without actually knowing the sequence of events and the details that make it's the details that make it so much worse. So on June the 3rd, 2026, Allie, who was the owner of Allie Rose Co, which is a bookish merch brand, announced on Instagram that she successfully secured a federal trademark for the phrase Hot Girls Read. There was a celebration emoji, a business milestone, very normal energy. Within hours, and I mean literal hours, the comment section was on fire. Because here's the problem. Hot Girls Read is not a brand slogan. It's a community catchphrase that's been used by hundreds of small bookish creators for stickers for years, or on bookmarks, enamel pins, tote bags. Entire Etsy shops have been built on variations of this phrase. It's practically public domain within the book world. So the reaction was pretty immediate. The word that kept surfacing across BookTok, across BookTube, across Reddit was colonizer. So here's where it gets even messier. Within 48 hours, people had uncovered that she hadn't filed for Hot Girls Read. She also had pending trademarks for book boyfriend, which is a phrase that the romance community has been using within their collective vocabulary for literal decades. And there was a list of other community terms that she included. But that's when the story stopped being about one bad decision and it started being about a pattern. Now I get that to someone that might be outside of this world, the words trademark controversy in the book community sound like the most cliche, low stakes drama imaginable, but it's really not. It uncovers something a lot bigger. If you run a small Etsy shop from your bedroom, you risked getting a cease and desist. And most creators can't afford to find out which one applies. So that made people genuinely furious. It wasn't just the trademark itself, it was that power imbalance. You had one person with access to lawyers and was claiming that the ownership of the language that the community had built collectively was theirs. There was also a conversation around cultural appropriation that came in really fast. Hot Girls Read doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's clearly derived from Megan Thee Stallion's hot girl cultural movement. And people ask very directly, should a white woman in the book merch space own legal rights to a phrase with those roots? The layer that kind of made this story a bit more complicated was it just wasn't about business ethics anymore. It was about who gets to claim ownership of a language that came from Black culture, filtered through the book community, and then ended up on a trademark application. So this is the part that I kind of enjoyed the most, because some of these reactions, and I'm not gonna lie, they're harsh, but some of them are so incredibly funny. One Reddit comment that genuinely made me laugh was that someone said trademarking Hot Girls Read when you sell mass-produced bookish merch is like trademarking I love pizza and then trying to sue every pizzeria in New York. And that sort of became the summary of the entire situation. Forbes covered it, People magazine covered it. Mainstream media was actually picking up on book community drama, which as someone who's been in this space for a little while was genuinely satisfying, because for once we weren't being covered as, oh, look at these weirdos reading spicy fairy or dark romances means that you're mentally unhinged. That was another one that was very fun. We were being covered as a community with a little bit more collective power. And finally, this is where it got very interesting. Did people actually go too far? Because I have got opinions and we're about to get into them. But first of all, don't forget to like and subscribe, stick the notification on if you want more chaos, because apparently this is what we do now. So less than a week into the firestorm, Allie Rose actually filed to abandon the trademark. So it's gone. It's dead. She posted a statement saying she never intended to harm the community, that she was just trying to protect her brand, and that she heard the feedback. Now, I'm not inside her head, so I'm not going to pretend that I know whether this was genuine regret or damage control. I think it's entirely possible she genuinely didn't anticipate the scale of the backlash and simply miscalculated. A lot of people in bookish business exist in this bubble where the main interaction is with the customers and not with the broader, messier, more opinionated community. But, and this is the part that keeps me thinking, the other trademarks are still pending. Book boyfriend hasn't been abandoned, and the list of other phrases she's filed for hasn't been fully addressed. So yes, We won when it came to Hot Girls Read, but the war around shared language, that still hasn't been settled. Okay, so overall, where do I actually land on all of this? I think the backlash was proportionate, and I'll tell you why. The book community, especially romance, fantasy, and the spaces where Hot Girls Read, actually runs on shared culture. It runs on inside jokes, on phrases that belong to everybody, on the feeling that you're part of that bigger community, that bigger collective. And when somebody tries to privatize a piece of that, legally, officially, and with the weight of the US trademark office behind them, it's not just an annoyance. It feels like a threat to the thing that makes the community actually work. So I was genuinely happy watching the community flex. You had small creators, you've got readers, booktubers, Reddit users, all pointing out the same thing and refusing to back down. Because usually we're too busy, arguing about whether or not ACOTAR is problematic or Fourth Wing deserved its hype, or if Colleen Hoover actually writes good books. She does. So for one chaotic, messy week, we were united, and I don't think that's nothing. But here's my slightly messier opinion. I do think there's a version of this where the pylon crossed the line, not because the criticism was wrong. The criticism was valid, but because at a certain point it stopped being about accountability and started being about entertainment. And the line between this person made a bad decision that hurt people and let's all enjoy destroying somebody, it was thinner than most of us want to admit. I mean, it's not like I see Allie Rose as some cartoon mustache twirling villain. I think she's someone who genuinely just made a bad call. Probably didn't just anticipate the consequences and spent a week being the main character of a story she just didn't know she was walking into. And that's got to be genuinely awful to experience, even if you brought it on yourself. But that doesn't mean that the backlash was wrong. And it also doesn't mean that I'm not done celebrating the victory. I'm celebrating the community's response. And those are two very different things. So what happens next? This is the final thing I'm going to say on it. The book community has money in it now. It really does. BookTok's sells books. Bookish merch moves serious units. I've seen full brick and mortar bookstores getting opened everywhere because of it. And wherever there's money, there are people trying to fence things in. Somebody else will try to trade book boyfriend or dark academia or some other phrase that the community treats as shared language. And the question is whether or not the book community has the stamina to push back every single time, or whether we'll start letting things slide. I think what this story proved is that the book story has more power to it than it thinks it does. And when we actually organise, when BookTok, BookTube, Reddit, small creators all point in the same direction, we can force change within a week. That isn't nothing. That's genuine collective muscle flexing. The question is whether or not we use it next time, or whether next time we're too tired. I genuinely don't know the answer. That's literally all I've got on this one. If you've been following the Hot Girls Read drama, or if you've got opinions on where the line is between accountability and dogpiling, put them in the comments and I'll read them. I might regret them, but I'll read them. Don't forget to subscribe and stick that notify on, because apparently I cover book world drama now. This was just too big to ignore. And I'm not mad about it. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all again next week.